Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, all by my lonesome, with a breaking news edition of the Buckeye Weekly Podcast, as the Ohio State Buckeyes have gotten a commitment from four-star defensive lineman Damari Simeon from St. Augustine Prep out of Richland, New Jersey, rated the number 201st player in the 24/7 composite, the number 26 defensive lineman in the nation, and the number 3 player in the state of New Jersey. Simeon is slated to play defensive tackle, but I think there's some position versatility there that we can get into. But currently listed at 6'3", 275, and commits to Ohio State over, he took official visits to Michigan, Penn State, Texas, and then ultimately decides today for Ohio State, giving Ohio State their first true or first initial defensive tackle in this class. There's some thought that Kari Wilder, who is defensive end, could grow into a defensive tackle. In fact, I don't know how much size difference there is between Simeon and Wilder, maybe about 15 pounds or so. But with Damari Simeon, as I said, he's athletic. We'll throw some highlights up, but I think the thing that stands out most for me initially is just how long he is. He's got long arms. He's got a heck of a reach. You see some highlights here where he can get his hands on the offensive lineman before they can really process it. And then he's athletic enough. You see him breaking free from a screen and reading the screen and dropping back for the interception. But he'll play all over the line for his high school. And that's really where I start to wonder about what he fits at Ohio State. Right now, in a 4-down front, you're saying he's a 3-tech all day long. Now, as they move to odd fronts and things like that, I think he could play some 3-down defensive end, which is not much different than basically the 4-3 3-tech. It's very similar positions on the defensive line, and you'll see like he's lined up at times where he is over the center. He's lined up at times where he's playing a 3-tech between the guard and the tackle. So he's seen all of this before, and he's got the kind of body type and burst that Larry Johnson loves with his 3-techs, where they're almost athletic enough to play defensive ends, and we've seen him move a lot of defensive ends to 3-tech, as they've done with Edric Houston. Did it with Draymond Harris. You saw Jayshon Cornell go back and forth throughout his career. But with Damari here, you've got a guy who is athletic enough to rush from the outside, but what Larry Johnson likes to do is put that athleticism inside and keep it inside against guards and tackles and guards and centers rather, and see how they can operate, because the straightest line from the defensive line to the quarterback is from the middle, and he always loves when you can have that disruptor right there. So I don't know how quickly he's going to get into the lineup. I know a lot of guys, when they bring in these defensive linemen, you got to see where they are when they arrive. He's listed at 275 now. What is he when he arrives? Is he 290? Is he 270? And so that kind of thing dictates how long things will take or where they like him. And then also defensive coordinator Matt Patricia is going to have some say in all of this. Coming from the NFL, he's accustomed to odd fronts, and we saw Ohio State tinkering more with that towards the end of the season. Larry Johnson has always been an even front guy, 4-down lineman, and has openly said he has no problem mixing and matching. And with Ohio State's defensive end versatility and the differences that they've got there now, we'll see some of that, I think, come to fruition this season. He has got the athleticism to play inside and outside, but I very much believe he's an inside guy. Even in an odd front defensive end, I still consider those guys inside guys, because they're usually covered up by a pass rusher, be it a blitzer or just a rush end, whatever it may be. And so what you've got here with Damari Simeon is an athletic interior guy who doesn't need to be pigeonholed as this or that. can grow into something, or, they'll find something that he does well. Like I said, I expect him to be a 3 tech, but again, they're going to be moving from even to odd throughout. So it's not positionless, because you're going to be, in terms of techniques, you've got 9 of them basically, and where you are lined up determines what technique you are. So basically, if you're between like the guard and the tackle, that's a 3 tech, and if you're between the guard and the center, that's a 1. If you're head nose over nose of the center, that's 0. And so wherever he lines up, he's going to be accustomed to these matchups. And then, of course, get him stronger, get him faster, get him all of these things. But I just, as I said at the outset, really you're taken back by his length and his reach, and there's a lot that he can get done with that then. And he's an intriguing prospect. And, whether he, anymore, almost everybody you get, you try to enroll them early nowadays. And when they enroll in June, it's like, well, that's late, even though that used to be the norm. And so we'll see when he gets in. But Ohio State brought in 3 defensive tackles in the 2024 class. They may be on the verge of doing that again in 2025. In fact, there's kind of just waiting on Glenville's J.J. Perez to fix his Florida commitment, basically, and commit to Ohio State. IMG's Cameron Brickle is possibly, he's going to be announcing tomorrow. Ohio State's, they'll have their ear to the ground on that one to see where that one goes. So things could be moving pretty quickly for Ohio State on the defensive front. Still want to finish up strong at defensive end to join Kari Wilder, who had a fantastic weekend last week at the Rivals camp and was the MVP on the defensive side of things, while Ohio State offensive line commit Sam Greer was, I believe, the MVP on the offensive side of things. So here you go. Latest commit for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Got them a good one. They believe they've gotten them a good one. Top 200 player nationally, Damari Simeon from New Jersey. New Jersey usually does Ohio State pretty well, and we'll see how this one goes for them as well. So thank you all for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up if you would, if you're watching on YouTube, and of course, if you're listening. I apologize for playing video highlights and not talking more about it, but if you would like to see us, so we're also talking about this quite a bit here over at BuckeyeHuddle.com on the message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So you can find all kinds of 2026 recruiting discussion going on, of course, and then how all of this relates to the team itself. We are talking about the team as well. We are less than a month away from Big Ten Media Days, which means we are 5 weeks from the opening of fall camp for the Buckeyes, which is crazy. So check us out there at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We'd love to see you there. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.